Hey, sports porchers! It's your hockey Jesus. And I've got some breaking news to bring to you. Late last night, the Pittsburgh Penguins were in trade talks with the Vancouver Canucks. And they finally pulled the trigger on a trade involving Marcus Pettersson. If you've been listening to me, you know this should come as no surprise. I told you that was going to happen. I am actually a little surprised it happened early, but I have some insight on the why that is. But first, let's get to the trade. The Pittsburgh Penguins trade Marcus Pettersson and Drew O'Connor to the Vancouver Canucks. In return, they receive Danton Heinen. You may remember him. He played for us for almost two full seasons from 2021 to 2023. Wasn't bad for us. Wasn't great for us. Wasn't memorable, but I mean, he's an adequate fill-in. I'll explain in a second. And Vinny Desjardins. He actually was with Vancouver for the first time this year. He was playing with Edmonton 2 years before that. He's a 28-year-old guy, adequate fill-in. But really, the full reason for this trade is the number one pick. They get a number one round draft pick from Vancouver, which they just received 24 hours before when they traded JT Miller over to the Rangers. So it's actually going to be the New York Rangers first round pick in this upcoming draft. And it is a conditional pick. And a conditional pick means, just like the Penguins had a conditional pick when they traded away assets, they can decide whether, if it's a top 16 pick, the Rangers, that they can decide whether or not they're actually going to give the pick that year or they're going to wait a year. I don't think it's going to be a top 16 pick, although the Rangers did get their asses beat today by Boston. I still think the Rangers are going to be in the mix for one of those playoff bursts. So we'll see. I mean, even if it's a 16, 17, 18 pick, even if it's a 14 pick, I don't think it will be. But if it is, I don't know. They might let it go anyways. Hard to know, but that's what it means to be a conditional pick. And the Pittsburgh Penguins get a prospect in Melvin Fermstrom. And you may ask yourself, who is Melvin Fermstrom? Well, I'm glad you've come to the porch. I am your hockey Jesus, and I will give you all things that I know about Melvin Fermstrom. He was drafted by the Vancouver Canucks in the third round in this past year's draft. He plays for the Sweden Juniors. And he actually plays for the Swedish Super Elite Juniors, where last year, the year before he got picked, he had 31 goals and 32 assists in 45 games. So he's a goal scorer. That's a good thing. That's what the Pittsburgh Penguins need. He's 6'2". He still probably can grow a little bit. So I think he's a bigger body. That's good. Not exactly fast, but when you're that big, you're not going to have elite speed. This year, he's been actually in the juniors where he was still tearing it up. He had 25 points in 12 games for them. But he's been playing with the big boy club over in Sweden, the Örebro Sweden team. And he's doing all right there. He really wanted to be in the first, second lines this year. That was kind of his goal. According to kyledubas, he's been playing on the third line, but he's been making some progress. And I think the Penguins had their eye on him in the draft when they got some other guys instead. So I think they're thrilled to have him. Hard to know. The kid's only 18. He'll be 19 this February. So it's hard to know whether or not that's a good pickup or not, but he is a goal scorer. He will have first line talent if he does come up, and that's exactly what the Pittsburgh Penguins were looking for in this trade. Why did it happen so quickly? Well, I think this is fallout from the Jake Gensel trade last year. I think Dubas felt like he waited too long last year, and it caused kind of this last year. Remember, right before Gensel was traded, the Penguins just went on a boom. They tanked. They went right into the ground. They lost like 7 out of 8 because they knew that the trade was happening, and they were basically crying about it, essentially. And I think Dubas is thinking, We know we're going to do it. He's been talking to Vancouver a lot about this. Vancouver has always wanted Pettersson. They need some help on the defensive side. And I actually think Rick Tocchet's going to get a lot out of Drew O'Connor. I think that's going to be a good trade for them. I don't know if it actually makes Vancouver better. Remember, they had to trade JT Miller because he had an ongoing feud with Elias Pettersson, the other Pettersson, and he just had to go. And he got traded to the Rangers. That's where he actually came from. So JT Miller's back in in the Metro. That's probably not good news for the Penguins, but that's the trade, essentially. Let me give you a little bit of background what I think about this trade regarding Desjardins, the defenseman, and Heinen. Essentially, Pettersson was getting paid about $4 million, and Drew O'Connor was getting paid about $1 million. Between Desjardins and Heinen, it's about $4.5, $4 million. So they're getting basically $1 million on some cap relief. That's no big deal. It's essentially an even cap move from that standpoint. I was a little concerned because I'm like, why trade for Danton Heinen? He's only signed through next year. He's an okay player. I get it. They had to dump salary. Vancouver did in order to be able to keep Pettersson and Drew O'Connor. They basically threw him in. Here's the deal with Drew O'Connor. They threw him in. This was his last year. The Penguins had to make a decision about whether they were going to keep him or sign him in the offseason. And I just think they just were a little disappointed with his progress this year. I think if Drew O'Connor comes out and scores 20 goals this year, they absolutely sign him, and they may even put him on the second line. But I think with the backtrack he had this year compared to his rookie season last year, I think that's the reason they threw Drew O'Connor in. I can't really blame the Penguins for that. Drew O'Connor this year, where's his stats? He had 6 goals and 12 assists for the Pittsburgh Penguins, exactly what Danton Heinen has for Vancouver in the same amount of games. So I don't think they're losing any offense, but they're definitely losing some youth. Drew is young, but I just think that he wasn't going to be part of the plan. So Vancouver wanted him. Let's just face it. That's who they wanted in the trade. And we got a defenseman back. The good thing about Desjardins, he is a right-handed defenseman. So that gets their righty-lefty combinations back. That probably makes Sully a little bit happier. So here's the deal. The Pittsburgh Penguins are going to continue to probably sell. There had been the NHL finally released the cap hit is going to go up next year. So I think that could free up guys like Raquel's salary looking a little bit more attractive now. Before it wasn't, but with the cap going up as much as it is, he could possibly be another building block to trade. They might keep him. I don't know. I'm really on the fence with that, but doesn't really matter what I think. Kyle Dubas will look at trades, and I'm sure he will absolutely get some possibilities of trades for Rax here in the near future. Well, that's all I got for you. Just a little bit of breaking news. I wanted to wait a little bit until I released this video because I needed to get some better information about the trade. At first, I was a little like, oh man, this doesn't sound like a good trade. But after analyzing a little bit, sitting on it all day, I'm okay with the trade. I think it was an okay trade. It's not gonna bring down the house one way or the other, but I think it's the move that shows the Pittsburgh's in definitely a rebuilding mode, and this move was always going to happen. Look, Pittsburgh Penguins are on pretty soon. I got to go watch a hockey game. I hope you're going to be watching it too, or maybe you're at the game, hopefully getting one of those bobbleheads. I'll be back tomorrow with some analysis of the Pens and the New York Devils tonight, but the trade happened. Pittsburgh's in a rebuild. Come back, listen to the Hockey Jesus. I'll give it to you. I'll give you everything you need to know about these trades. So enjoy the game. I'll get back to you